Welcome to video 3.4, medians, which are beyond CPCTC. So let me review what's going to be going on here. First, we're going to get triangles congruent. Then, we're going to get parts congruent by CPCTC. And then we're going to use those parts that are congruent to prove other things like medians and altitudes. So this first topic deals with medians. We'll define it. I'll give you a picture. We'll do a proof. All right. So definition. If a segment from the vertex of a triangle divides the opposite side into two congruent segments, then it's a median. Let me draw you a picture over here. So here is just a random triangle. And let's say we're talking about that vertex there. Well, then the opposite side would be over here, and the segment's got to divide it so the opposite side is bisected, basically. So it would have to go somewhere like that. So that would be the median. And if I wanted to show that visually, I could say tick mark, tick mark. Okay, so that's the definition in a picture. Now let's go ahead and do a proof. All right, so example 1 deals with this figure over here. I'll mark it up and put question marks by what I'm trying to prove. So I'll put question marks by what I'm trying to prove first. SZ is the median to TY of the big triangle. So if I want to show that SZ is a median, I've got to show that it divides the opposite side into two congruent segments. So I've got to show that that segment is congruent to that segment. I've really got to get TZ to YZ. Okay, well, maybe, I'll read the rest of it, but maybe I'll be dealing with this triangle here and this triangle over here. If so, then I've got my triangles, I could get them congruent, I could do CPCTC and call it a day. Let's see what happens. All right, so angle T is congruent to angle Y. I'll use blue. Angle T is congruent to angle Y. Angle SVZ, that's this angle here, is congruent to SXZ, that's that angle there. And TV is congruent to YX. Okay, so I've just marked up the diagram. I've put question marks what I'm trying to find. I think indeed I will try to get those two triangles congruent and then get those parts and call it a median. So now my goal is to get green triangle congruent to blue triangle. Ooh, I've got an angle and a side already. So, well, that side is going to be not easy to do. Maybe I can get that angle to that angle. If so, the triangles would be congruent by angle, side, angle. ASA. All right, so now I'm really trying to get those angles to be congruent, and then I'll get the triangles and the parts. So how can I get those angles congruent? Oh, from week 1 of this class. This angle is supplementary to this angle. This angle is supplementary to that angle because they form a straight line or a straight angle. And if angles are supplementary to congruent angles, then those angles are congruent. Ah, okay. So now I've got a game plan. I'll get those triangles to be congruent, then I'll get those parts to be congruent, and then I'll use my definition of median. Okay, now I will start writing it down. All right, and again, I'm going to want to go in angle, side, angle order. That's just the way I do it. So I'll start with this. I'll use black. So angle T is congruent to angle Y given, and I'll give myself angle credit there. Okay, then we've got side TV congruent to side YX. That was given. I'll give myself some side credit. Now we're gonna do that work. And remember, from now on, we don't have to say, oh, assume from diagram we got the straight angle. We're gonna be beyond that. So I'll show you right now. So for 3, what I'll do is I'll just start with this angle being supplementary to this angle, and this angle supplementary to that angle. If 2 angles form a straight line, then they're supplementary. All right, so angle, I'll call it TVZ, is sup to angle, I'll use the same wording, SVZ. And angle, I'll go over here, I'll call it YXZ, is sup to angle SXZ. And again, my reasoning will be, if the angles form a straight line, they're supplementary. If angles form line, then sup. Okay, now I'll get my congruence, so I can use that theorem from the first week of school. So my congruence was angle SVZ was congruent to angle SXZ. That was given. So now, if these things are congruent, then these things are congruent. And that's what I wanted. Okay. So angle TVZ is congruent to angle YXZ. All right, I'll write it down. If angles are supplementary to congruent angles, then congruent. So I just got those angles to be congruent. So that would be the A. I now have the triangles congruent by ASA. So I'll go triangle, what shall we call it? I guess we'll call it TVZ. Triangle TVZ. Once I do TVZ, I'm stuck with YXZ in that order. Triangle YXZ by ASA. Then I can get the parts that I ultimately wanted. So now I can get TZ to be congruent to YZ. I always do a quick check. TZ's first and last, YZ's first and last. Just helps me check my ordering. That was by CPCTC. Again, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And once I get this, now I can use my definition. So SZ is median to TY. And now, instead of writing out all of that, I will allow a picture. So if you want, you can say the following. If you draw the median thing, so if I get those 2 congruent segments there, then we're a median. Or if you choose, you could write all those words out. So there you have it. The definition of a median, a picture of a median, and a proof trying to establish that we have a median.